Aid never believed God existed. In his world, power was prayer, and money answered faster than any spirit ever could. From the sky-high glass of AJ Holdings Tower, he ruled Lagos like a silent storm. Boardrooms trembled when he spoke, presidents listened when he called. But when the lights went off at night, even his empire couldn't drown out the truth. He was empty. Every mansion echoed with luxury but not laughter. Every night, the same woman, Toke, his queen in name, not in peace, stared at a ceiling that knew all her tears. Doctors came and left with results written in whispers. Tests, pills, rituals, science, nothing worked. Aid blamed the world. Toke blamed herself. And the city blamed God. Toke knew every woman Aid ever touched in search of an heir. She could smell them in his clothes, hear them in his silence, and see them in the way he looked away when she mentioned family. He called it hope. She called it betrayal. He chased wombs the way other men chased contracts. But every mistress ended the same, bleeding, broken, barren. And the whispers grew louder. A man with gold for blood but no son to bear his name. Toke's heart turned into a battlefield. She no longer prayed for a child, she prayed for proof that Aid was human enough to break. One night, she found him on his knees, not in prayer, but in defeat, fists clenched, tears falling where no one could see. That was the night jealousy became her faith. Morning came with headlines that burned like fire. Aid Judge, the man who has everything, except a bloodline. In the boardroom, Aid stood calm, a god pretending not to bleed. He smiled at his investors and said, "Empires don't die because of rumors." But when he returned home, silence waited. On his desk, a sealed medical file. Inside, the proof of what no man like him could bear to read. Low sperm count. 0 conception. No future bloodline. He shut the file, lit a cigar, and whispered, "If God won't give me a child, I'll find another way." Toke watched from the shadows, her face pale under the chandelier's gold. She didn't speak, but her eyes said everything. She would rather burn the world than watch him build a legacy without her. And somewhere across the city, in a forgotten home filled with candle smoke and prayers, a girl named Rachel whispered, "Mother, why does love always bleed before it's born?" Rachel was 30, beautiful, elegant, and quietly broken. To the world, she looked like every man's dream, yet no man ever looked twice. She was the last born of 4 daughters, each one carrying a beauty that drew eyes but never love. Their mother, Madame Ephema, used to say, "Men see you girls and see their end." Her words were not far from the truth. Rachel's 2 eldest sisters died before reaching 50, one from a sudden illness, another from a car crash that no one could explain. Her immediate elder sister, Linda, was all she had left. And their mother, the only surviving child out of her father's many, lived every day in fear that death was watching her bloodline again. The family had everything except joy. No marriage, no child, no man ever stayed. The curse was not rumor, it was a pattern, and Rachel's family was running out of time. When modern medicine failed, Madame Ephema turned to what she once mocked, the unseen. She met with a respected herbalist at the edge of the mainland, one known for solving problems science could not name. The air in his compound smelled of burnt incense and bitter leaves. He looked at her daughter's pictures for a long moment before saying, "You have fed your daughters with food but not with freedom. Your ancestors demand purity, or the bloodline will end with them." He gave her a calabash of dark herbs and a small clay bowl filled with powder. "Feed them this," he said. "Then at 3 a.m., let them walk naked to the T-junction and wash under the moonlight. The gods will see their shame and have mercy." Madame Ephema trembled but agreed. She went home that night with hope and fear dancing in her chest. Rachel sat quietly as her mother explained everything, the herbs, the bath, the walk of shame. Linda obeyed. She always did. But Rachel stood up slowly and said with tears, "Mummy, I will not live in fear anymore. If love kills us, then let it come for me standing." Her mother slapped her, screaming, "Do you want to die like your sisters?" Rachel didn't answer. Her silence said everything, she was done living as a cows. At midnight, the house was filled with the whisper of rain. Linda drank the herbs, wrapped a white cloth around her waist, and left with their mother to the T-junction. Rachel stayed behind. She couldn't sleep. Her heart raced as though something inside her was calling, an echo she didn't understand. She looked at her reflection in the mirror. For a moment, she didn't recognize herself. "If the gods want me, they'll find me in my own way," she said softly. She took her small bag and left the house. Not to the shrine, not to the moon, but to the city's silence. Rachel ended up at a high-end club on Victoria Island, a place she'd never been before. The music was wild, the drinks too strong. She needed to forget the voices of home. But that night, something dark passed through the air. She didn't know when her glass was refilled, or when her head began to spin. Across the room, Aid, the billionaire who once said money is my god, sat alone, nursing his exhaustion and heartbreak. He had everything, except the one thing his empire couldn't buy, a child. 2 souls, both lost, both running from something, in the same room. The next morning, Rachel woke up in a luxury suite. Her head throbbed, her body trembled, and beside her was a man she'd never met. Aid. He was equally stunned, a man used to control now staring at a stranger who had somehow slipped into his destiny. She saw the blood stain on the sheets. Her world went silent. "You're a virgin," Aid whispered in disbelief. Rachel pulled the duvet around her, tears burning her eyes. Neither of them knew it yet, but this night had just rewritten both their fates. Lagos mornings were never quiet. But for Aid, the world had gone strangely still. He sat in his glass-walled office at Apex Holdings Tower, overlooking the ocean. On his desk were contracts worth billions, yet all he could see was the face of a woman he didn't know, crying under the rain. He had spent years chasing success, believing money was the only god worth serving. But since that night, something in him had cracked open. Who was she? He whispered to himself, scrolling through security footage from the club. His assistant entered. "Sir, the board meeting." "Cancel it," Aid said flatly. He didn't care about meetings, profits, or deals. The empire he built suddenly felt empty. The man who ruled Lagos now found himself ruled by guilt, and a feeling he could not name. Meanwhile, Rachel stayed hidden. Her mother called her phone endlessly, but she couldn't answer. She felt dirty, lost. And yet, deep within her, something had changed. Something alive. Toke had always known when Aid was lying. She could smell secrets before they spoke. She was the woman every other woman feared, elegant, sharp, and fiercely territorial. But lately, something about Aid was different. He smiled more, but not at her. At dinner one night, she reached across the table, watching his eyes drift into another world. "Aid," she said softly, "what's her name?" He froze, spoon halfway to his mouth. "What are you talking about?" "You're not eating your food, you're eating guilt," she said coldly. He stood, grabbed his jacket, and left, not realizing he'd just confirmed everything she feared. In the quiet of her luxury room, Toke stared into the mirror, trembling. Her reflection mocked her. You had everything, and still lost him to a ghost. That night, she called one of her private investigators. "Find every woman that man has been with in the last 2 months. I want names, faces, everything." Toke wasn't the kind of woman who cried over love. She was the kind who burned down everything that tried to take it from her. Banana Island, a paradise floating on Lagos waters, home to kings who never prayed. And Aid was its quiet ruler. When he met Rachel, he told himself it was a fling. Just another escape from his failures. But with every word she spoke, his defenses fell like sandcastles in a storm. Within weeks, he had given her an apartment overlooking the ocean, cars with red ribbons, and a life of luxury she'd never imagined. Aid was a man who didn't wait for reasons, he created them. But deep down, he knew this wasn't about wealth. Rachel had touched something that even his billions couldn't fix. For the first time in years, he smiled genuinely. For the first time, he felt seen. He didn't expect love. He didn't expect loyalty. And he certainly didn't expect the miracle quietly growing inside her. To Rachel, it all felt like a dream she didn't deserve. She'd never met a man, nor ever been treated with such tenderness. Aid was kind, gentle, powerful, yet broken. But every time his phone rang, her heart sank. The tone of his voice changed. The respect. The fear. The way he said one name, Toke. It wasn't just a name, it carried command. Rachel could feel it, the authority of a woman who had built her throne beside him. A woman no one dared to replace. She's not just his wife, Rachel thought. She's his crown. Still, Aid's presence felt like warmth after a lifetime of winter. He gave her everything, the kind of life her mother once promised but could never deliver. But each gift came wrapped with guilt. Each kiss, with a whisper of danger. Rachel knew the world she'd entered wasn't hers, and yet she couldn't leave. But secrets in a rich man's life never stay buried. And Toke, with her quiet elegance and sharp intuition, began to smell the smoke of betrayal long before the fire started. Men can lie, she told herself, but their absence never does. Toke didn't scream. She observed. She moved with the grace of a lioness, patient, silent, fatal. Her spies whispered what her heart already knew. Pictures, calls, movements, and then, a name. Rachel. Toke's hand trembled as she poured wine into a glass. It wasn't jealousy. It was betrayal, the kind that doesn't cry, it plans. You gave her what you denied me, she whispered into the dark. Now, you'll both pay the price. The night was unusually quiet. Rachel sat by her window, half awake, scrolling through old messages, her thoughts drifting between regret and confusion. Then her phone rang. Mother. She smiled faintly, then froze at the sound of her mother's voice, trembling, gasping, broken. Rachel. They came. They came looking for you. Rachel's breath caught. Who, Mama? Who came? 2 men, in black suits. They asked of you. I told them you weren't home. They left, but your sister. Her mother's words shattered into a sob. Rachel, they shot her. Twice. In the head. She died on the spot. The phone slipped from Rachel's hand. The world stopped moving. Her heart pounded against her ribs as her mother's cries echoed through the line. She wanted to scream, but no sound came out. Only silence, the kind that swallows you whole. Still in shock, Rachel grabbed her bag, trying to think clearly. She needed to go home, to her mother, to understand why. But before she could step out, something burned her nose. A faint, bitter smell. Smoke. She turned around. The curtains were glowing red. Flames crawled across the walls like angry spirits. No, no, she screamed. She ran toward the door, coughing, gasping, choking on heat, then everything turned white. Her world went silent. When Rachel opened her eyes again, she was surrounded by white walls, white sheets, and a soft beeping sound. Where am I? She whispered. You're safe, a nurse said gently. A man found you in the gutter, unconscious. He brought you here. Rachel blinked, confused. Her phone, gone. Her bag, gone. Only her name remained. Who was he? She asked. He didn't say, the nurse replied. But he promised to come back. He never did. Days passed. Her body healed, but her soul didn't. She was alone, afraid, and hunted by silence. Then, one evening, a nurse entered the room with a small smile. Someone's calling you, she said, handing her a phone. Rachel shook her head violently. No, no, I can't. The nurse pressed speaker. Rachel, the voice said. Her heart froze. It was Aid. I'm sorry, you have to go far away. Don't ask questions. Just go. Before she could speak, the call ended. But she heard something faint beneath his breath, a whisper, a woman's sigh. Toke. Moments later, a man in a black suit entered the room. He didn't speak. He simply dropped a heavy suitcase beside her bed. Inside, stacks of cash. Enough to disappear. Their eyes met for one long second. A message passed without words. Run, now. Rachel took the money, trembling. By nightfall, she left the hospital, heading home to her mother, her heart burning with grief, anger, and fear. And somewhere in Lagos, someone watched her leave, a figure in a black Mercedes, waiting for the next move. Rachel arrived home with tears and ashes still in her hair. Her mother ran toward her like one who had seen a ghost, screaming, crying, clutching her face. You are alive. My daughter, you are alive. Rachel fell into her arms and wept. For hours, they held each other, crying until their bodies shook. There were no words strong enough to explain what she had survived. The fire, the fear, the pain of loss. That evening, the compound was filled with mourners for the burial ceremony of Rachel's sister. Candles burned low. Drums whispered sorrow. Rachel stood beside her mother, eyes swollen, heart heavy. When the priest finished the last prayer, her mother held her hand and said softly, "We have lost too much. This time, only God can save us." Rachel nodded, speechless. 4 years, her mother had trusted shrines and sacrifices, but now, she was tired. Something in her had broken. That night, for the first time in her life, Rachel's mother called her to pray. They knelt by the window, facing the moonlight. Their voices trembled as they prayed, not to idols, but to the God they had both ignored. They prayed until tears became worship. Until fear became peace. Rachel told her mother everything, about Aid, about the hotel, about how he treated her like a human being, not a sin. Her mother listened quietly, her eyes shining with something between pain and pride. At least, she said, smiling faintly, one of my daughters finally felt love, and knew what it means to be a woman. Rachel wept again, burying her face in her mother's arms. It was early morning. The cock hadn't crowed. Rachel's mother's phone rang, slicing through the silence. She hesitated, then answered. A woman's voice, cold, firm, commanding, filled the room. Hand the phone to your daughter. Rachel froze where she sat today. Her mother's hand shook as she turned to her. Who is this? She asked, trying to sound strong. You don't need to know who I am, the voice said. Tell your daughter I see every step she takes. Tell her to stay away from my home, my husband, and my life. If she dares cross that line again, she will lose everything and more. Click. The line went dead. For a moment, silence swallowed the room. Then Rachel's mother dropped the phone. They both clung to each other, trembling like children caught in a storm. Rachel's tears came hot and fast. Mama, what have I done? Her mother whispered. You've loved the wrong man, my child. But we will survive this. We always do. They prayed again that night, this time not out of faith, but fear. Days passed. Rachel tried to bury the past, to smile for her mother, to cook, to fetch water, to laugh again. But her body began to change. A strange heaviness in her chest. A quiet nausea in the mornings. A feeling she couldn't name. One afternoon, when her mother went to the market, Rachel took a test she had bought secretly from a chemist. She waited. The seconds stretched into eternity. Then, 2 lines. Bold. Red. Unmistakable. Her heart stopped. She fell to the floor, clutching her stomach, shaking her head. No, no, not now. Tears streamed down her face as she whispered. How will I tell Mama? How will I protect you, my baby? When her mother returned, Rachel quickly wiped her eyes and smiled faintly. Are you okay? Her mother asked. Yes, Mama. Just tired, she replied softly, holding the secret like a flame in her chest. That night, as the wind howled outside, Rachel placed her hand on her stomach and whispered, You will live. Even if it costs me everything. Far away in Lagos, Ade stood at his penthouse window, staring into the dark sky, unaware that somewhere, a heartbeat was already calling his name. The night was cold and quiet when Rachel placed the folded letter on her mother's bed. Her eyes were swollen from tears, her hands shaking as she wrote. Mama, please don't look for me. I'll be safe. I have to go, for me, for us, pray for me always. The old house was wrapped in darkness when she stepped out. No luggage, no jewelry, no memory to hold her back. Only her ATM card and the heartbeat of the child she carried. She walked like a shadow through the narrow street, leaving behind every echo of her past. The pain, the love, the fire, the blood. By midnight, she vanished into the night bus heading nowhere. When dawn came, Rachel arrived in a faraway city, nameless, quiet, strange. She cut her hair, bought a new phone, changed her name, and rented a small apartment that smelled of fresh paint and hope. For the first time in years, she felt peace. Lying on the bare floor, she whispered to her unborn child. I don't have the world to give you, but I'll give you love. That's all I have left. Back in Lagos, the mansion felt colder than usual. Toke stood by the window, watching the city lights, her voice calm but commanding. Let's try again, Ade. One more chance at surrogacy. Ade hesitated. The failures, the rumors, the emptiness, they haunted him. But Toke's determination broke through his doubt. Soon, arrangements began. Contracts signed. Money moved. 2 surrogates were chosen, one through Ade's approval, the other through Toke's secret plan. Toke had learned from pain. This time, she would make sure her way worked. Months turned into a year. Prayers turned into waiting. Then one morning, the call came. Sir, the doctor said, voice trembling with joy. Both surrogates are successful. You're going to be a father. Ade froze, unable to breathe. His lips moved slowly, a whisper, not of disbelief, but surrender. Thank you, he murmured. For the first time, thank you. News spread like wildfire. The billionaire without an heir was now a father, twice over. The world celebrated, his rivals mourned. Ade poured his gratitude into purpose. He built stronger walls around his empire, creating new security codes, new trusts, and legal seals. His bloodline would inherit all. My sons will carry my name, he declared. No one will challenge my throne. Toke smiled beside him, fulfilled at last. The world saw a perfect picture, a woman who waited, a man finally redeemed. But far away, in a small rented room, Rachel sat by the window, cradling her belly. The radio hummed faintly in the background, a business news headline mentioning Ade's double blessing. She turned off the radio. Tears gathered in her eyes, not of regret, but quiet strength. He got his miracle, she whispered. And I got mine. She placed her hand over her heart, then on her stomach. Outside, rain began to fall again, soft, endless, cleansing. And miles away, in her old home, Rachel's mother knelt in prayer, clutching the faded letter. Her voice trembled as she whispered, God, I've lost so much. But please, watch over her. Go and put on a cloth, and don't put your head on the floor. But your hand by your head. Years passed, and Michael grew, elegant, confident, and strangely divine. At just 6, he spoke with a tone that carried authority yet gentleness. His laughter healed Rachel's pain, his prayers shook the quiet house each night. He sang to the skies, voice pure as light, songs that made even strangers stop to listen. "Mummy," he'd say, "I think God sings back when I sing." Rachel smiled, proud and broken at once. She worked as a customer service agent at a small local firm, earning little but giving everything. She dressed Michael in neat clothes, fed him well, and taught him kindness. Though their home was modest, it carried the fragrance of peace. And when she watched him sleep, she often whispered, "You are the son of grace, even if the world never knows whose blood runs in your veins." By 45, Rachel began to fade quietly. The cough came first, light, dismissible. Then the fevers. But she hid them, smiling through the pain, praying Michael never noticed. At work, she grew weaker. One morning, her boss called her aside. "Rachel, you've been missing too many days." "I'm sorry." Her heart sank as the envelope slid across the desk. She'd lost her job, the only thing keeping their small world afloat. Neighbors whispered, "Go to the native doctor, maybe it's the curse." But Rachel refused. "If my God gave me Michael, he won't let me die before his promise comes true." The hospital corridor smelled of antiseptic and despair. Rachel sat on the cold metal chair, her palms trembling as she held the white paper, the doctor's report. "Cancer." The word echoed through her like a whisper from the grave, an invisible chain binding her to her family's cows. She wanted to scream. She wanted to ask why every woman in her bloodline had to suffer before 50, why love and death always walked side by side in her life. But when she looked up and saw Michael, her son, his innocent eyes, his faith-filled smile, she swallowed her tears. Michael was her miracle. The proof that love could rise from ashes, that grace could still bloom from pain. Rachel hid her sickness, pretending her strength hadn't failed. She sang along with him during his morning rehearsals, smiled when he spoke about his dreams, and prayed silently when he wasn't looking. Every cough, every dizzy spell, she brushed aside. "Just a little cold," she'd say. But deep inside, she knew the truth. Time was no longer her friend. Each night, she sat beside his bed, watching him sleep. His chest rising and falling, steady, peaceful. She'd whisper softly, "God, if this is the price of peace, let me pay it quietly. But please, let him live." Her body weakened by the day, but her spirit, oh, her spirit, grew stronger. She found peace in small things, the sound of Michael's laughter, the light of dawn through her window, the silent faith that refused to die. Rachel knew that though her days were numbered, her legacy wasn't. Her faith in God, her resilience through pain, her love that endured every storm, all of it, now lived in Michael. And as she looked at him one quiet morning, the sunlight kissing his face, she whispered with a faint smile, "My body may fail me, but my strength now lives in you." The house that once echoed with laughter had grown silent. The walls, once alive with the sound of Michael's songs, now whispered only hunger and fear. Rachel's sickness had worsened, her body frail, her steps slow, her breath thin like the wind before a storm. Bills piled on the table like a mountain she could no longer climb. Rent overdue. Electricity cut. Her medications, too expensive to refill. Michael did everything he could. He worked after school, fixed broken computers in the neighborhood, and sang at small cafes for coins that barely bought bread. But no matter how hard he tried, it was never enough. He watched his friends gain admission into universities while he stayed behind, chasing survival instead of dreams. His heart burned with frustration, but he never showed it. He smiled before his mother, even when his stomach growled from hunger. One night, the landlord came knocking, his voice thundered through the thin door. "Madam, this is the 3rd month. I need my rent or you both will leave this house." Rachel tried to stand, but her body failed her. Michael stood in her place, shielding her with his presence. "Please, sir, just 1 more month. I promise I'll pay." The landlord scoffed and left, muttering under his breath. That night, Michael sat by the window, his eyes filled with tears that refused to fall. He whispered to the stars, "God, why does life punish good people?" Behind him, Rachel spoke weakly from her bed. "Because good people carry the light, my son, and the light is never easy to bear." Her words cut deep, yet healed something inside him. He went to her side, holding her hand, thin, cold, trembling. "I'll make it, Mama. I don't know how, but I'll make it. You'll see." Rachel smiled faintly, her eyes glistening with pride. "You already have, Michael. You're still standing." And as the night stretched long, Michael stared into the darkness, realizing something painful but powerful. Even when everything falls apart, faith can still hold you together. The rain fell quietly that night, slow, steady drops that tapped against the window like the rhythm of a broken heart. Michael sat by his mother's bedside, his guitar across his lap, staring at the emptiness that life had become. Every note he strummed carried a memory, his mother's laughter, her prayers, her whispered faith in God when the world had turned away. And then, like a divine whisper, the words came to him. A song, a letter to heaven, a cry from a son to his dying mother. He titled it Heaven's Note. If I could write to heaven, I'd send your smile in sound. Tell the angels who you are. The woman who never bowed. Mama, you taught me faith. When life had none to give, you said, the body fades, my son, but love will always live. He recorded it with nothing but his old phone and a cracked laptop, uploading it to the internet with trembling hands. He never expected what came next. Within days, Heaven's Note spread like wildfire. People wept watching the young man's voice, raw, powerful, soaked in emotion. The world wanted to know, who is Michael? The boy who sings pain like prayer? Radio stations picked it up. Churches played it. Influencers reposted it. Then came the email that changed everything, an invitation to perform at an international Grammy audition in Los Angeles. Michael was speechless. He rushed to his mother's bedside, holding the letter like a miracle. Mama, they want me. The world wants to hear our song. Rachel's eyes filled with tears, joy and sorrow entwined. Her voice shook as she spoke. Michael, this is God's doing. Go, my son. Let the world hear your voice, the same voice that carried me through pain. Michael refused at first. Mama, I can't leave you. Not now, not when you're this weak. She smiled faintly, pressing her trembling hand into his. You will. You must. You are my answered prayer, Michael. Don't let my sickness hold your wings. That night, Rachel opened her small wooden box, the one where she kept her savings for her treatment. She handed it to him, her eyes glistening. Take this. Use it for your flight. Let my pain buy your purpose. Michael broke down in tears, falling to his knees beside her. He could hardly breathe between sobs. Mama, how can I go chasing dreams when you're dying? She smiled, brushing his face with her fragile fingers. Because I'm not dying, my son. I'm living through you. And as dawn broke, Michael packed his guitar, kissed her forehead, and whispered, I'll make you proud, Mama. Rachel closed her eyes, whispering a prayer. Go, my son. Let heaven hear your note. 4 years, the world believed A. Judge had it all. 2 sons, an empire, and a perfect marriage. The A. Judge name echoed through every boardroom and government hall. His boys, Femi and David, were the pride of Lagos high society. They schooled abroad, wore designer smiles, and carried the last name of a man who built wealth from dust. But beneath the glimmer of private jets and bodyguards, a secret was rotting. One only Toke, his wife, and a silent doctor shared. It was a Friday night when Aid's convoy sped through the third mainland bridge. A heavy rain had just begun. His mind wasn't on the meeting he left behind, it was on the unease that had been clawing at his chest for weeks. He'd been having nightmares of faceless children calling him father. A flash of light, a screech of tires, then impact. His car spun out of control, metal shrieking like a cry for mercy. The vehicle slammed against the divider. By dawn, the news had broken. Billionaire industrialist A. Judge in critical condition after ghastly auto crash. The empire trembled. Shares dropped. And for the first time, the man who never bowed to God lay helpless, fighting for breath. As Aid lay in a coma, his rivals circled like vultures. They knew something no one else did. His company's security system was designed around genetic access. Every major asset, the accounts, the vaults, the master codes, could only be unlocked by his biological heir. So when the board called for a verification process to secure control, Toke's heart froze. Because Femi and David weren't Aid's sons. Years ago, when the surrogacy failed, she had made a secret deal with the doctor, switching Aid's sample with another man's DNA. The doctor was paid to disappear. The carrier was relocated and silenced. No one was ever supposed to know. Now, the past she buried was crawling out of the ground. Toke stood before the boardroom mirror, rehearsing her lies. Her voice trembled. Aid's accident changes nothing, she told the directors. The boys are his, and they will inherit. But the lawyers insisted on genetic proof. Every hour that passed felt like a blade pressed against her throat. She bribed a hospital technician. She destroyed files. But fate had its own way of exposing truth. A rival leaked a rumor to the press. A Judge empire built on false bloodline. In a day, social media was chaos. Toke's mansion was surrounded by reporters. And Aid, still unconscious, was now fighting two battles. One for his life, the other for his legacy. Late that night, lightning struck across the Lagos skyline. Toke sat beside Aid's hospital bed, holding his cold hand. "You built everything, Aid, and I couldn't give you the one thing you wanted." Tears fell on his lifeless fingers. Machines beeped softly. Then, for a brief moment, Aid's hand twitched. His eyes fluttered open, dim and lost, but full of rage and pain. "Aid," whispering, "whose blood runs in my house." Toke froze. Her lips trembled, but no words came out. And in that silence, thunder echoed through the window. The empire that once stood on pride and power began to crumble. Under a golden sky of flashing lights and roaring applause, Michael stood on the Grammy stage, his hands trembling, heart racing, yet his eyes steady with fire. The orchestra hushed. The audience waited. He closed his eyes and whispered, "For you, Mum, and for Grace." The first note of heaven's note soared through the hall, pure, raw, divine. A voice so powerful it seemed to part the air itself. It wasn't just a performance, it was prophecy. Every lyric carried the ache of his mother's suffering, every pause echoed with the prayer she never stopped saying. When the final chord fell silent, the audience rose in thunderous ovation. Michael Rachel's son, the boy from nowhere, became the voice the world couldn't forget. Lagos was never this quiet, not in Aid's world. The gates of Aid Judge Global Holdings, once guarded by flashing lights and endless convoys, now stood half open, uncertain, like the heart of the empire itself. Aid lay in a coma, silent and pale, with machines breathing for him. The monitors beeped like fading echoes of the life he once commanded. He had conquered industries, silenced rivals, and rewritten the rules of wealth. But now, the man who once said "I am my own god" could no longer lift a finger to save himself. Toke stood beside his hospital bed, wrapped in a designer shawl, her reflection in the glass cold and unreadable. "You can't die now," she whispered. "Not after all this. Not before I make sure no one takes what's ours." But deep inside her, fear churned like wildfire, fear that the lie she built her life upon was about to burn through every wall she erected. The following week, chaos erupted inside the company. Aid's empire, worth billions, was suddenly paralyzed. The security AI systems, global accounts, real estate portfolios, and offshore investments were all coded with one condition. Access requires Aid Judge's biological DNA. Without him, the entire empire froze. Executives panicked. Investors pulled out. Rivals began circling like vultures in the air. Board meetings turned into battlegrounds. Men who once bowed before Aid now threw accusations like knives. "We can't access payroll. Shareholders are demanding his signature. The company will collapse within weeks." And at the center of it all, Toke sat in silence, her face calm but her mind unraveling. Only she knew the darkest truth. The boys she called Aid's heirs were not his blood. Outside, Aid's rivals saw opportunity in chaos. Business sharks and political tycoons moved fast, filing false claims, buying out minor shares, and spreading rumors that Aid was dead. Every headline screamed, "Aid Judge Empire without heir. Frozen billions under DNA lock." Toke met with Aid's board under intense pressure, her tone sharp, her posture unshaken. "No one touches this company until my husband wakes up," she warned. "If you try, I'll bury your careers before you finish your next sentence." But when the lights went off and the boardroom emptied, she sat alone, exhausted, her mascara smudged by tears she refused to let fall. Far away, in a small hospital room smelling of disinfectant and prayer oil, Rachel lay weak, her breath shallow but her eyes gentle. Michael's performance replayed on the TV, the world celebrating her son. Nurses whispered in the hallway, "That's her son. The boy who sang at the Grammys." She smiled faintly, whispering, "He did it, Lord, he made it." But behind her smile was pain, her body was failing faster than expected. The cancer had spread, and even her faith trembled in the face of reality. Michael rushed back to her side after the award night, falling beside her bed, holding her frail hand. "Mum, I did it for you. For us. Just stay with me, please." Rachel stroked his cheek weakly. "No, my son. You'll do greater things, not just for me, but for him. The world will know who you are, not by name, but by grace." Tears rolled down both their faces. Outside, thunder rolled again, echoing through the night, the same sound that once filled the Aid Judge's mansion years ago. As Rachel's eyes slowly closed, her lips formed one last whisper. "Michael, my miracle." And in that moment, as her heart grew still, the hospital smelled of rain and sorrow. Rachel lay weak on her bed, her breath soft, her eyes dim yet filled with calm light. The doctors had said the cancer was spreading faster than they'd expected, faster than she could afford to fight. Michael refused to give up. He sat beside her every night, holding her hand like it was his anchor to life. "Mum, you'll be fine," he whispered one night, voice trembling, but her condition worsened. The doctors advised urgent transfer abroad, to a special treatment center in the United States. Michael broke down that night, crying into his pillow, praying with all the faith his mother had planted in him. Within a week, the charity organization that had sponsored Michael's music reached out again. When they heard about his mother's illness, they offered to fly her abroad for treatment, all expenses covered. It felt like a miracle. Michael couldn't stop thanking God, whispering prayers as he packed their few belongings. Rachel, though weak, held onto her Bible and smiled at him. "See, my son? God never forgets his own. Even when we run, he still finds us." At midnight, they boarded the plane, Rachel in a wheelchair, wrapped in a white shawl, her face serene. Michael sat beside her, eyes wet but hopeful. Through the window, Lagos lights faded behind them, fading like memories they had both run from. As the plane cruised through the night sky, Michael took out his notebook. He began to write, words pouring like tears. "If love had wings, it would carry you. If heaven spoke, it would sound like you. Mum, don't sleep, just rest." Rachel listened quietly, smiling through her weakness. "That's beautiful," she whispered. "Maybe that's the song you'll sing when I can't hear anymore." He froze. "Don't say that. I'm saying what I feel, my son. Promise me something." He nodded, choking back tears. "Promise me, no matter what happens, sing. Sing until the world knows what God did for us." He promised. Days passed in the foreign hospital. Machines hummed gently as if whispering lullabies. Rachel's treatment began, and for a short while, she improved. She could walk again, smile again, even laugh softly at Michael's jokes. Michael sang for her every morning, small songs of hope and faith. Nurses often stopped in the hallway, listening in silence. But one night, everything changed. Rachel began to breathe heavily, her hands cold, her eyes distant. Doctors rushed in, shouting orders, lights flashing. Michael stood frozen at the door, unable to move, unable to pray. Rachel's body was weak, her spirit tired. The doctors said her chances were slim, the cancer was spreading too fast. Michael refused to believe it. Every night, he prayed beside her bed, anointing her hands with oil, singing softly until she slept. "Mum," he said one night, his eyes swollen from crying, "you told me curses can bow to God. So it must bow now." Rachel smiled faintly, whispering, "Yes, my son. It must." Though her body trembled, her faith grew stronger than ever. She stopped taking certain medications, choosing instead to fast, pray, and speak life over herself. She could feel something shifting, deep in her spirit, like generations of pain finally breaking loose. In the foreign hospital, treatments began immediately. Doctors were surprised by how fast her body responded. Tumors began to shrink, her strength slowly returned. Every night, she sang along with Michael, hymns, worship, and sometimes Heaven Note, the song that made the world fall in love with her son. One morning, the lead doctor came in smiling. "Mrs. Rachel, I don't understand this. The results show full remission, the cancer is gone." Tears streamed down her face as she fell to her knees. "Thank you, Jesus," she whispered, trembling. "The curse is broken." Rachel and Michael returned home, not in sorrow, but in victory. Neighbors who once whispered of curses now came to rejoice. Rachel's mother, now frail but joyful, embraced her with tears. "You did it, my daughter. You broke it." Rachel knelt before her and said, "No, Mama. God did." Their home, once filled with silence and grief, now echoed with laughter and songs of thanksgiving. Weeks later, in Toke's lavish mansion, the TV was on. A broadcast replayed Michael's Grammy performance, his voice still echoing through screens worldwide. Toke walked by absent-mindedly, until she froze. The boy's face. His smile. The way his brows furrowed when he sang, exactly like Aid. Her hand trembled. The glass she held slipped and shattered. "It can't be," she whispered. His Aid's reflection. She turned up the volume, watching every movement, every gesture. Her heart pounded as a horrifying thought bloomed. Could the bloodline she faked already exist somewhere else? She dug through archives, press articles, and performance details. When she found the name Michael Rachel's son, her heart went cold. Rachel. The name haunted her like an old ghost. The resemblance was undeniable, his jawline, his eyes, even the commanding calmness he carried. He looked exactly like Aid in his youth. Her heart began to race. Could it be that Rachel, the woman she once despised, the one who nearly ruined her marriage, had given birth to Ade's real son? 2 days later, under the cover of morning fog, Toke arrived at a small compound on the outskirts of Maryland. It was the home of Rachel's mother. The old woman froze at the sight of her unannounced visitor, Toke, dressed in black, her eyes heavy with regret and pride. You shouldn't be here, Mama Rachel said, clutching her rabbit tightly. Toke's lips trembled. She wasn't there to fight. She had spent years hiding secrets, but time and guilt had finally broken her. Please, Toke said softly. I didn't come to harm you. I only came to talk. They sat across each other in silence. Two mothers, bound by one man's sin, and a boy who never asked to be born into their war. Toke finally spoke, her voice cracking between pride and pain. I saw him, she said. The boy. On TV. He looks exactly like my husband. Rachel's mother said nothing, but her trembling hands betrayed her fear. Toke continued, tears gathering in her eyes. If Rachel had a son for Ade, the world must never find out. His enemies, they are like wolves. Ade's empire is shaking. His company is locked by his DNA, and only his true heir can open it. If they find out about that boy, they'll kill him, just to destroy Ade's legacy. Rachel's mother gasped, covering her mouth in shock. The word kill echoed through her soul. I've buried too many, she whispered. Not my grandson. Not again. Her voice broke. Please, Madam Toke, don't let them touch him. Don't let them know he exists. Toke nodded slowly, her eyes glistening with something new, remorse. I swear, I didn't come to harm him. I came to protect him, if it's not too late. That night, Mama Rachel sat by her candlelight, her heart pounding. Should she tell Rachel? Should she warn her daughter? She picked up the phone and dialed, her fingers trembling. Rachel answered softly, her voice calm yet tired. Mama, are you all right? Rachel, her mother stammered. She came. Toke. Your husband's wife. Silence. Rachel froze, her mind racing. What did she say? She said your son, Michael, is in danger. That if they find out his Ade's blood, they might kill him. Rachel clutched her chest, her breathing shallow. Her worst fear, the past she buried, was now rising again. Night fell heavy over Lagos. The city glowed like 1,000 broken dreams stitched together by neon light and rain. Toke sat alone in her car, parked opposite a church Rachel and her mother attended. Her eyes were swollen, not from tears, but from the weight of regret. For years, she had built walls of pride and rage, but those walls were cracking fast. Inside, Rachel held her mother's trembling hands, whispering prayers she no longer knew how to finish. When her phone rang, her heart nearly stopped. Toke, she breathed. Yes, it's me, came the voice, low, strained, unfamiliar yet haunted. I'm not here to fight. I'm here because we both love the same man and the same child. There was silence. The kind that bends the air and tests the soul. Rachel wanted to hang up, but something in Toke's tone felt real, desperate, human. They met the next day in a quiet restaurant near the lagoon. No guards. No pretense. Just two women bound by pain and fate. I know about Michael, Toke said, her voice shaking. And I know what Ade's enemies are planning. They've discovered his sons aren't his by blood. Once they confirm that, the company, the empire, everything will fall, unless the true heir steps forward. Rachel's lips quivered. And what do you want from me? Toke leaned closer, her eyes glistening with something that almost looked like redemption. I want to protect him. I want to protect Michael. For once, I want to do something right. Rachel's mother had warned her not to trust the woman who once tried to destroy her, but Rachel's heart saw something different, a mother drowning in guilt, clutching at grace. They made a pact that night. No contracts. No signatures. Just a vow in the rain. Michael must never know the truth until the right time. Ade's empire must be saved until his recovery. And the enemies lurking in the shadows, those who once praised Ade, must be silenced by their unity. As they walked out into the storm, two women once torn apart by betrayal now stood side by side, bound by one cause, to protect the bloodline and the future that was born out of pain. And somewhere far away, a heart monitor beeped in the hospital, Ade's fingers twitched. He wasn't gone yet. The news broke like thunder. A young man named Michael Rachel stood on a world stage, singing Heaven's Note. His voice burned through every screen. His face, too familiar. Inside a dim boardroom, Ade's rival, Chief Benson, froze. Pause that, he barked. The screen stopped on Michael's face. Same eyes. Same fire. Ade's blood. Find him, Benson ordered. Now. His men spread out like shadows. Within days, they found Rachel's trail, fake IDs, a new name, a quiet life. But nothing added up. Still, Benson smelled truth. The boy is his. Rachel felt it before she saw it. The eyes watching her, the car that parked too long on her street. Every sound made her flinch. She called her mother, voice shaking. "Mama, I think they found me." Her mother's voice broke. "Pray, my child. God will hide you." But even prayer couldn't quiet the storm. That evening, Rachel made a desperate move. She went to see Toke. The mansion gates opened. Toke appeared, elegant, cold, unreadable. Rachel's voice trembled. "They're after me, after Michael." Toke studied her for a moment, then sighed. "You shouldn't have come." Before Rachel could reply, Toke's phone rang, her guard on the line. "Madam, bad news. The boy's been taken, black SUV heading west." Toke's eyes widened. "What?" Her voice roared through the hall. "Find him. Bring him back alive, or don't come back at all." The kidnapper's SUV cut through the darkness. Suddenly, 3 black jeeps appeared behind, headlights slicing through the night. Gunfire erupted. Tires screeched. One of the guards slammed into the SUV's side. Sparks flew. Bang. Bang. 2 kidnappers went down before they could scream. Another reached for his gun, too late. Within minutes, it was over. The car burned, smoke curling into the black sky. No survivors. No traces. Back at the mansion, Toke dropped the phone. Rachel's legs gave way. "They killed them," she whispered. "They tried to take your son," Toke said, breathing hard. "They'll come again. We move tonight." By dawn, Rachel and her mother were gone, hidden deep in a secured villa outside Lagos. Armed guards surrounded the compound. Michael, still shaken but safe, was brought to Toke's house. He didn't understand why. He only saw the woman from TV. Powerful, calm, eyes heavy with secrets. Femi and David, Toke's sons, stared at him from a distance. They had no idea who he really was. But they all felt it. Something powerful had shifted. The bloodline had awakened. Every evening Toke walked the antiseptic-lit corridor to Aid's room like a penitent queen. The empire she once commanded with a cool, unblinking eye was reduced to blinking monitors and hushed conference calls. Outside, stock tickers froze, servers sat in idle silence, and the board paced like vultures. Inside, the man she had married lay as if carved from marble, cold, immovable, unreachable. Her fingers found his hand and she whispered one of their old, ridiculous lines, "Don't keep me waiting, big man." The machines answered with indifferent beeps. She had once believed that money could fix anything. Now she believed only blood could. The biometric locks on Aid systems required a genetic signature, his signature, and without it the banks, the AI nodes, the seed vaults, everything that made the conglomerate unassailable, stayed sealed. Rivals were circling hungry. Toke's facade, iron and silk, cracked in private as she watched the life she had curated slide toward oblivion. That night the mansion felt like a courtroom where verdicts were already given. Guards lined the drive, but no force could hold back the weight of the decisions that pressed on her chest. Board members phoned, lawyers faxed, whispers of takeover plans threaded through every briefing. Toke closed the curtains on the city and let the darkness be honest with her. In that hush the impossible thought surfaced. Michael. He was already under her roof, cushioned behind layer upon layer of security for his own safety, an odd, tender prisoner. The boy's face haunted her like a locked door that might yet open. She had hidden him to protect a secret. Now that secret smelled like salvation. "Forgive me," she murmured to the sleeping man she loved and to the son of the woman she had once wanted destroyed. Desperation had no time for ethics. If blood could save what her hands had built, she would find a way to bend fate and law to the shape of it. The boardroom was silent, cold, like a tomb. The heavy glass door hissed open, and Femi walked in. Or at least, that's who everyone believed he was. Behind that crafted silicone mask, beneath the carefully styled hair, was Michael, Aid's true son. Every step he took echoed confidence, every nod rehearsed from Toke's private sessions. He'd spent nights studying Femi's posture, his arrogant smile, his low-pitched laughter. A voice device beneath his collar deepened his tone. Toke's tech man whispered through an earpiece. "Remember, your DNA will unlock the vault. Just keep your pulse calm." Michael inhaled. The board's eyes scanned him, suspicion, confusion, fear. He pressed his thumb on the biometric pad. Beep. The light turned green. Gasps filled the room. The system accepted him. For the first time in months, Aid's empire was awake again. Files decrypted, systems rebooted, millions in dormant accounts flickered back to life. A holographic image of Aid's face appeared on the wall, a programmed message he'd left years ago. Only blood unlocks legacy. If you're watching this, protect it, and protect her. Toke's knees weakened as she watched from the surveillance room. Her eyes welled up. She whispered, "Aid, your son did it." But the celebration was short-lived. Across the street, a rival executive watching the live feed frowned. "That's not Femi," he said coldly. "Zoom in." The system enhanced the footage, frame by frame, revealing a slight crack on the prosthetic edge near Michael's jawline. The man smirked, picking up his phone. "Find him. Now." Meanwhile, Toke rushed to Michael as soon as he left the building. She pulled him into the car, trembling. "You did good," she whispered, "but now, they know." Michael, breath heavy beneath the peeling mask, looked at her. "Then we finish what my father started," he said. As the city lights reflected off the windshield, the camera pulled back. The Empire was awake, the enemies were in motion. And the real A had just stepped into his father's shadow. The marble walls of Adiwale Holdings echoed with chaos. Cameras flashed. Oppositors shouted accusations. At the center stood Toke, steel in her eyes, fear in her chest, beside Femi, who was in truth Michael, hidden behind a flawless silicone disguise, voice mimic tech, and forged credentials. "This is fraud," one rival roared. "You present an imposter to control Adiwale Holdings." Toke slammed her hand on the table. "You want proof of blood," she said coldly. "You'll have it." Michael, steady, calm, every inch his father's son, stepped toward the biometric vault that could only open for Aid's DNA. He pressed his hand, his blood scanned. Access granted. The room gasped. The vault lights turned green. The Empire had recognized its heir. But victory lasted only seconds. Screens lit up around the room, rival media already broadcasting. Adiwale Empire scandal, fraudulent heir exposed. Security burst in. Allegations flooded the floor. An injunction froze the company accounts. Ojedin, the lead oppositor, stepped forward. "You fooled everyone long enough, Mrs. Adiwale. You and this, masked child." Toke's knees trembled. Michael's disguise glistened with sweat. He could hear the guards cocking their guns. "Ma," he whispered. "It's over." "No," Toke breathed. "It's not over until blood speaks." Just then, every monitor in the building flickered. A secure code overrode the broadcast. The logo changed to Adiwale Prime Authority. The board froze. Then came the sound no one expected, Aid's voice. "Enough." The single word silenced the storm. The video feed sharpened, Aid, pale, weak, but alive in his hospital bed, surrounded by blinking monitors. "You fight over a throne I built with my hands," he said. "You question the blood that carries my name? Look well, he is mine." Ojedin staggered. Toke covered her mouth, tears spilling down her face. "All claims are null," Aid declared. "Every charge against my wife and my son, dismissed. Freeze the wolves, not my blood." He raised his hand weakly toward the nurse beside him. "Make the call." A command sequence triggered. In one moment, the board's accounts were locked, their shares seized, and the security detail turned on the oppositors. The fire against his family went out. Outside, breaking news exploded. Adiwale awakes, Empire restored. Inside, the guards stood down. Michael removed the mask, revealing his true face, a living reflection of Aid in his youth. Gasps rippled through the hall. Toke reached for him, whispering, "You were the risk that saved us all." He smiled faintly. "He taught me to fight for what's mine, even before I knew he existed." The hospital room is bathed in morning light, quiet, peaceful, almost sacred. Aid sits upright, pale but alive, a man who has stared death in the face and returned. Machines hum softly beside him. The door opens. Toke steps in first, composed but trembling, her eyes swollen from nights of prayers and tears. Behind her walks Michael, no longer in disguise. The truth of his blood now lives in his face. Then, standing in the doorway, hesitant but radiant, is Rachel. Aid's breath catches. For a long, suspended moment, time stops. "Rachel," he whispers. "You're alive." Her eyes fill, but her smile is gentle, not bitter, not angry. "I had to be," she says softly. "For him." Aid's gaze shifts to Michael, his son, flesh of his blood, the child he never knew he had. Every regret, every mistake, flashes through his mind like lightning. "I've built empires," Aid says, his voice trembling, "but never a home. And yet, you both kept my name alive, even when I didn't deserve it." Toke turns away, silent tears running down her cheek. Rachel steps closer, placing Michael's hand in Aid's. He doesn't need an empire, she says. He just needs a father. Aid's chest tightens. For the first time in his life, he bows his head. Then let me be that man. The three stand there, bound not by wealth, not by pride, but by forgiveness. Through the window, the city glows with sunrise. Michael looks out, his voice steady and full of hope. Maybe this is what grace feels like. Michael walking out of the hospital. Cameras flash, fans cheer. His song Heaven Note plays faintly in the background, his mother's voice echoing within every note. Aid watching from his hospital window, smiling faintly. Toke stands beside him, Rachel with a quiet peace. The sun broke through the clouds that morning, soft golden rays pouring through the mansion's tall windows, touching every corner that once held shadows of pain. Aid had come home, not the proud billionaire who thought he needed no God, but a man who finally understood the meaning of grace. Toke stood by the window, her reflection shimmering against the light. Her heart trembled as Aid walked closer, every step carrying memories of love, betrayal, loss, and forgiveness. He reached her, gently taking her hand. For a long moment, they said nothing. Then, his voice, soft, broken, real. Toke, I never traded you for anyone. Not then, not now. You are, and will always be, my home. Toke's tears fell freely as she rested her head on his chest. And I was too blind to see the man behind the pain, she whispered. They held each other, hearts beating in rhythm, a love tested by fire but refined by forgiveness. Across the room, Rachel stood with a gentle smile, not as a rival, but as a woman at peace. Beside her stood Michael, the son born of ashes and grace, laughing softly with Femi and David, the boys who now called him brother. Aid turned, his eyes wet with gratitude. Thank you, Rachel, he said, for showing me what faith really looks like. Rachel nodded, her voice tender. He was never lost, Aid, he was only waiting for you to believe. Outside, the faint sound of police sirens marked the fall of Aid's enemies, justice served, chaos silenced. Inside, something far greater was restored, love, unity, and peace. That night, they all gathered at the long dining table, laughter replacing pain, light replacing fear. Aid raised his glass, his voice steady and full. For years I thought I had everything, power, wealth, control. But tonight, I have what truly matters, forgiveness, family, and faith. And I thank God. I almost lost it all to find this. The camera pulls back slowly, the family framed in warm light, their laughter echoing through the mansion once more. They lived not just as one family, but as a living proof that love, forgiveness, and grace can heal even the deepest wounds. This is just the flames. Let's now witness the rise of this remarkable story. Subscribe, like, and ring the bell. Thanks for watching.